This podcast is a proud member of the Fan Hub 100. Football without fans is nothing, so we've partnered with Fan Hub to put fans first. Search Fan Hub app to play your part in the journey.
Welcome back to another Speak Sunderland Reaction podcast. Lee Johnson took charge of his third SCFC game yesterday afternoon with an away trip to promotion hopefuls Lincoln City, a game in which resulted in an emphatic 4-0 win for Sunderland. Joining me to talk about the game is John and Paul, and it's the first time in a very long time that we're recording a podcast in a positive mood, but how are you both getting on?
I'm doing really well. I'm over the moon with that result. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, same as me.
Well, yesterday's win was the first win in the league for Sunderland since the 3rd of November against Ipswich, over a month ago, obviously. Since then, we've lost to Mansfield, Fleetwood, MK Dons and Wigan. Three of those teams were embarrassing defeats. And obviously, Fleetwood's never a good team to get beat off with Joey Barton, but it is what it is. But, John, it's finally nice to be talking about a win again, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not... Obviously, we've had wins before, but you can tell that this one's different. Obviously, a lot of the wins we had early on, we probably got hammered a little bit, and then got, obviously, red cards went for us and penalties. And there wasn't really... You didn't really see any plan, but at least yesterday you saw, obviously, going on from Oldham as well, Tuesday, you actually see a plan, obviously, a different tactic being implemented, and it's really refreshing to see, which is what we've been crying out for. And it's just strange how it's taken us, a couple of seasons to sort it out.
Yeah, well, obviously looking at the table, and obviously even more so now after the game, just how important was it for Sunderland to get the win yesterday, Paul?
Oh, very important. The gap would only get bigger if we didn't sort of beat, especially teams up there. Because I think Top got beat as well, didn't they? So,
Shrewsbury, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the top two got beat. Obviously, the couple around us that got some good results, but we've got to keep in touch with them. Otherwise, before you know it, you're mid-table and you're out of touch. So, yeah, very, very important win it was.
Yeah. Well, obviously, going into the game yesterday, Lincoln had only conceded 10 goals all season. They were second in the table and generally in good form. And on the other hand, Sunderland were, as I've said, without the win in the league for over a month. Some poor results recently, a few draws, and then ultimately the performances weren't good enough. But John, just before even before the team was announced, you say that we're playing Lincoln, they're second in the league. Good defensive record. They weren't scoring too many goals, but were you confident of getting some kind of result on yesterday, or you're hoping, thinking, a draw might have been the best outcome?
No, I think in this league, I don't think you should be able to go to teams and just accept a point, because we're not talking about top level here, and especially with us, we need to be a little bit more. What's the word? I'm trying to think now. A little bit more.
Can't do that one.
No, lost train of thought, but we should expect to go to these places and at least put in a good performance and take away a good result. We shouldn't be going to these teams and settling for a draw. And I probably would have took a 1-0. So obviously 4-0 is a massive result. We don't beat teams 4-0. We haven't done for years. So this is a massive result compared to what we used to.
Yeah, and I was thinking yesterday, I might be wrong on this, but is that the first league game this season we've scored more than 2?
I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. And I absolutely love what John's just said there, because I've been seeing that all season, since we went into League One. People predicting draws and defeats. I just can't get my head around it. There's no team in this league we should be predicting a defeat against, or even a draw. So for him to say that as well, it's absolutely nice to hear.
Yeah. And we'll look at the team. Let's start at the game for Sunderland. Obviously, Lee Burge starting goal. I know a few people were hoping Anthony Patterson would start, but Lee Burge was back in between the sticks. Conor McLaughlin as the right back, Bailey Wright, Tom Flanagan as the two centre halves, and Callum McFadzean, again, at left back. Obviously, Denver Hume still out injured. Midfield 3 of Josh Scowen, Max Power and Grant Ledbetter. And a front 3 of Aidan McGeady, Jack Diamond and Charlie Wyke. So, obviously, Paul, there was a few changes. Wyke was back in the side after picking up an injury a few weeks ago. Jack Diamond kept his place in the side after impressing against Oldham. And, I think a lot of fans wanted that. But the only inclusion I questioned at the time was Conor McLaughlin. I've said multiple times in the last few podcasts that as a centre-half, I do think he does a really good job. But as a full-back, I just don't think he quite fits that role. And I did think Sanderson would come in and do a better job, but obviously he didn't. But other than that, was there anyone in the starting 11 that you were surprised to see, or anyone even on the bench that you were surprised to see?
Yeah, I was quite happy with it, to be honest with you. The Wyke coming back in, some people saying that Grigg should have been given a chance to score the goals. He needs more of a run in the game, and even though I do accept that, Wyke is he's the one that's been scoring the goals. So for me, he did the right thing by bringing him back in. Diamond, he played really, really well against. I know I wasn't on the last one, but he played really well for us against Oldham. So he deserved to start, and we'll talk about him a bit more later. But as for McLaughlin, I don't know. I really like him. I'm being really impressed with him. I like to see him. He does try to get forward, and he doesn't really make that many mistakes. Even though Sanderson is good, I wouldn't rate one better than the other at the moment. So I was quite happy with that. The rest of the team, pretty much fine. Maybe Scowen. I've still got slight doubts over Scowen for some reason, but there was nobody else I would have started really ahead of him. I wouldn't have picked Dobson, but we'll talk about Dobson again later on, probably.
Yeah. Well, Luke O'Nien, Denver Hume, Jordan Willis and Lyndon Gooch were all injured, obviously. Luke O'Nien, I think the longer term one. Obviously, Denver Hume with a hamstring injury. Lyndon Gooch, I think he's back possibly before the new year, but right at the start of the new year, if not. And Jordan Willis, I'll be honest, I've got no clue what's happening with him because he seems to be in and out of the team every other week. But like I say, they were all injured for yesterday's game. And John, it bodes well for the future if we can win games as convincingly as we did yesterday against such a good side on paper without so many of our first team players, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I did put a tweet out yesterday saying that, look at what we can do, obviously, with those 4 players, and arguably those 4 players would start and would make us a hell of a lot stronger. And then the squad, obviously, we brought 5 subs on yesterday, and even we didn't look a lot different. So you imagine how strong the squad is now. It's boding well, and especially as Johnson's looking into the market as well in January, and you think he's only going to look for players who are better. So if we could add 1 or 2, we have got a cracking squad going forward for the second half of the season. Yeah, I did put a tweet out yesterday saying that
the home side started fairly well. They had 2 early chances after getting behind the Sunderland defensive line. A couple of mistakes. I think Bailey White was involved in one, and Conor McLaughlin just seemed to fall over for one of them. But on both occasions, they let Sunderland off the hook, really. And Paul, we've said the same last week. We've said it for a while now, actually, but the defence has looked somewhat shaky recently, and even more so under Lee Johnson. But the opening 20 minutes or so followed the same suit. We've said Bailey Wright hasn't looked the same. What do you think that comes down to?
I'm not too sure. I think it maybe because we're just playing a bit more attacking minded, less defensively, which I think is Lee Johnson's style. So yeah, it is a little bit worried, especially that they had 2 very good chances in front of the goal. I'm not sure. I think one of them, Burge, did he get his fingertips to it?
On it, yeah.
Yeah,
just before he went round him, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's excellent. That put him off really. And I think if he hadn't gotten the fingers to the ball, it would have been a goal. So yeah, I don't know. I think we still got a really good defence. We've got a clean sheet again. So I think, like with the players that you mentioned, Willis being injured and him coming back, we've got a strong enough squad to deal with it. It's just why it's a bit shaky. I don't know. The only thing I can put it down to is maybe because we're playing a bit more attack minded.
Yeah, John. If you look at our defence, as I say, and Luke O'Nien normally starts as the right back, Denver Hume normally starts as the left back, and Jordan Willis is normally the centre half. And all 3 of the players, they're not the fastest players in the league, but they're certainly a lot faster than what we have now. And if you look at the 2 chances that Lincoln had early in the game yesterday, do you think they would have happened if we had the likes of Luke O'Nien, Jordan Willis and Denver Hume there with the pace to cover?
Probably not. No, I think Willis is the big one, isn't he? He's good in the air and he's good. He's obviously very fast and complements Bailey Wright, which is why I think it works in the three sometimes. Obviously, Wright's more sort of controlling things, and he's not going to be the one who's going to catch him. But Willis is normally the one. If you look back at the highlights throughout the season, he does do a lot of covering. I think Bailey Wright does miss him. Hume maybe not so much because obviously Flanagan just sort of sits in behind, so it's almost like a compliment. But now we've moved to the four. Obviously, it's a changing system for him a little bit, so maybe just a bit getting used to. Obviously, our midfield, you'd say two of Scowen and Ledbetter because Power's a little bit more forward. Don't seem to cover as much, especially Scowen. So maybe that's a food for thought, especially with 09 out for a little while.
Yeah. Paul, what do you make of Flanagan and Wright as a centre back partnership? I suppose like as a three they've worked well because as I've said there, they've always had a defender next to them with a bit of pace to cover them if they did get caught out. But when Willis comes back, when Sanderson's a bit more involved in the squad, is Flanagan and Wright the two you'd stick with?
Oh yeah, it's so difficult. It's like what John was saying there about the amount of players we've got in the squad now that could come in and do the job. It is difficult to actually sometimes pick who you would want to start over another player. Like for me, I'm like you. I would like to see more of Sanderson. He's looked good. Flanagan, for me, he's doing really well. I've given him a good rating in this last game, so I like him. Maybe Bailey Wright has dropped off the pace. He was one of my favourite defenders. So yeah, to be honest with you, if I was to change anybody at the moment, it would be either McLaughlin or Bailey Wright. I would keep Flanagan, just going off the recent performances, ahead of them two.
Yeah. Well, 16 minutes in to the game, Sunderland were awarded another penalty this season. Jack Diamond received the ball and, he drove into the box and just a few seconds after he seemed to be pulled back, he was brought down. And I know a lot of Lincoln fans on Twitter, I say a lot, I think most Lincoln fans on Twitter were kind of annoyed about the decision. And I know Michael Appleton was as well, Lincoln boss. But John, for you, was that a penalty?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's outraged, because they think it's the tackle. But it's not. I'm sure it's because the guy does actually pull him back. Not a lot of people see that. And obviously, if he doesn't pull him back, he's probably going to get through and get a shot away. So I think that's what the referee sees because the referee gives it. But no one else is seeing that. So yeah, definitely penalty for me.
Paul, for you, is that the same kind of stance you have on it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had penalties go against us for less. Like, for me, it's you take your luck sometimes, you get it sometimes you don't, and we got it this time. So yeah, it was. I could see like if I was the Lincoln City player fan, I would be obviously annoyed as well. You sort of see things through a different lens when it's your own team, but for me, it was a penalty.
Yeah, like John, you said there, I think a lot of fans do think it was given for the second foul, and I haven't seen it back yet. But the second foul, if it is given for that, then it's not a penalty. But that also cancel out by the fact that the initial tug on Diamond, if that's anywhere else on the pitch, it's given as a free kick. So if it's in the box, it's got to be given as a penalty for me. But it was given, and Ledbetter stepped up to take it, and once again converted it with ease. And I believe that's his fifth penalty of the season. I read somewhere, obviously a 100% record for him. But with the lack of goals that Lincoln had scored this season, as I've said, they've scored 10 in, I think it was the first 14 or 15 games. We went 1-0 up yesterday. Did you have any sort of faith that we would crumble like we have recently? I say faith, I don't mean faith, but you know what I mean by, did you have any kind of instinct that we would crumble, or did you think that we'd gone 1-0 up against a side struggling to score? Were you confident of getting a result then, John?
It's always, obviously we're still learning under Johnson and how teams respond. You obviously with Parkinson, it was a little bit, we sort of retreat almost and try and maybe protect that and then invite pressure. Whereas by the looks of it, it's early days, obviously, but Johnson seems to be, no, let's get the second, let's hit him. And we did that. And when we scored the second and the third, it did literally kill Lincoln. Obviously, it came just before half time and they hit us a little bit back, but we rode that storm, got the game going again, and obviously we scored again and we were relentless. But under Parkinson, you don't see that. So with Johnson, I think that is the way, and obviously the intensity, and then the substitutes again coming on helped. So it's, from what we can see from Johnson, it seems to be a lot more, let's build on it, which is what it should be, because we have the players, and obviously that's that's what we're trying to build on at the moment. So yeah, it could have gone either way. But the way we're seeing it at the moment with Johnson, it looks like let's hit him hard, and they'll have no response.
Yeah. Well, Sunderland didn't stop at 1-0, obviously. 10 minutes later, Jack Diamond once again was involved. He raced forward on the right flank. He's put a ball in. It was cleared out. Conor McLaughlin got a second attempt to put the ball in. He did, to the back post to Callum McFadzean, he's headed it down towards the penalty spot, and Charlie White stabbed home. And Paul, there was a few concerns before the game and over the last few days that White wouldn't be able to replicate the form that he showed earlier in the season, obviously after his injury, but he's certainly doing that, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. And I think his confidence has grown more and more. Somebody did mention, I've just listened to a podcast by Jack Dodds called the Red and White Preview. The Red and White podcast. And he was saying that because there's no fans on his back, he thinks that's what's helping him with his confidence to grow, and I totally agree with that. I think if we'd had fans in the stadium in the games where he'd been missing goals or even just not being in the right position, the fans would have been on his back, and I don't think his confidence would have grown as much as it has done. So, yeah, I'm really glad we started with him.
Well, after 2-0, Sunderland did take their foot off the gas slightly for the next 15 minutes or so, and Lincoln started to go into the game a little bit more, and under Parkinson, this is when Sunderland would concede and then start to crumble. But the exact opposite happened. We responded to the pressure by pushing forward again. And just a few minutes before half-time, McGeady received the ball. He's ran the length of the pitch before playing a ball into Jack Diamond, who's took a touch, cut in onto his left foot, which at the time I thought, have a shot with your right foot. But he's cut in onto his left foot and he's curled an effort in the top corner. And it was an outstanding finish and a great move in general. But John, we've been crying out for Diamond to start for us for a while now. There's a few games under Parkinson he did play, but he was played as a defender, which, if you have listened to his interview after the game, he kind of hints at the fact that he wasn't happy with Parkinson and playing there. But Leigh Johnson's came in, he's put him out on the wing, he gave him his opportunity, and he's certainly taken his chance, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. We say it most weeks, round pegs in round holes. It's not really that hard, and I don't see why Parkinson was so against it. Obviously the shackles are off a little bit more with Johnson, but just a bit of pace in this league, and look what he's done. And he only played 45 minutes, but he was tearing them to shreds. Obviously we know he's still a bit raw and he picks up a silly booking, but that his sort of pace and drive gets us up the pitch, and it stops teams attacking us if we've got that. And that's something that Parkinson was really reluctant to try, and obviously McGeady as well. And I'll say what else was refreshing to see is how many players we had in the box, which does help Charlie White. Do you know what I mean? The balls were coming over, and they were winning headers back in, and that's what White got his goals from. We had 6 or 7 players in the box at one point. That's unheard of with Parkinson. We'd probably never have one person in there. So, do you know what I mean? The tactics are a hell of a lot better, and obviously you can see it is working for us.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you've seen it on Twitter, John or Paul, but obviously there was a graphic that showed the area of the pitch that balls were getting put into the box against Wigan and against Burton, I think it was. I think Danny Collins mentioned it on the stream, but the difference was incredible. I think it was against Burton, the crosses were coming in from 30 yards, 40 yards, from our defenders on the left, on the right, from literally everywhere on the pitch. We were just lumping the ball into the box and hoping for the best, but at that time, like John said there, we had one player in the box at most, and sometimes Charlie White would win that ball, but there's no one around him. But then you look at the game yesterday, and again, I'm sure the graphic will come out again, but the balls into the box were coming from good positions, not too far out, just on the wings. And again, as John said, we had 4, 5, sometimes 6 players in the box. And Paul, how much of a difference do you think that makes just in general?
It's incredible. It's for me, it's the difference between night and day. Like the way I was expecting some kind of improvement in this game, but for me, I wasn't expecting the way that the performance was just so much better. And getting them players in the box, especially like John said, makes all the difference for getting goals for the likes of Wyke. The crosses coming in with better quality. It's like, for me, I even tweeted, it's like we're a completely different team.
Yeah.
So whatever he's doing, long may that continue. Hopefully it's not just a one-off. I don't think it is. So yeah, getting people in the box, getting down the wings, getting the bit more pace in the team. I was even McGeady running through the middle of the pitch, 30-odd-year-old, like he was leaving the Lincoln players for dust. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely over the moon with that.
Well, half-time arrived, and obviously Sunderland did find themselves 3-0 up, despite Lincoln having two of the best chances of the game. But, football is a game that if you don't take your chances, it means nothing. Jack Diamond was replaced at half-time, and initially I thought it was a knock and, he picked up a slight injury, but it was precautionary as he was one foul away from a second yellow card, potentially. I'm not even sure what he picked up the first yellow card for. I wasn't even aware at the time that he did pick up the yellow card. Any of you know what that was for?
I can't remember seeing it. Yeah, I can't
I think
remember
it was just a silly pullback. I think he did it in midweek as well. Just lost the ball and then just a silly pullback. And in this, obviously, they just get booked for nothing nowadays, don't you?
Yeah.
But he was replaced by Maguire, who played a part in the only real event in the second half. Obviously, Tom Flanagan got the ball. He showcased his Iniesta-esque passing ability to release Chris Maguire on the right wing, who's, he's run 20 or 30 yards. He's played a neat ball in the middle for Charlie White to hammer home the second of the game, and I think it's his 10th of the season in all competitions as well. Obviously into double figures now, and only a third of the way of the season through as well, so that's a good sign. But Paul have spoke about White before, but he really is having a great season. He's getting into better positions. His hold-up play is better in general, and I think he looks fitter as well. Do you think he's capable of scoring the goals we need to get out of this league? Obviously, last season we had no one to score them. The season before, obviously we've had the likes of Josh Madger who left halfway through the season who scored them, but up until now we haven't had a goal scorer in the squad really. Do you think Charlie White's capable of being that man?
Well, if you'd asked us like beginning of the season, I would have just laughed at you. I've even got a bet. Well, it's not so much a bet. One of the guys that work on Fans React, he said, if Charlie White gets more than 10 goals, will you treat us? Like, I don't know, maybe buy him something from the Sunderland shop or whatever. I was like, yeah, no worries, that's fine. Didn't think I'd even have to slightly worry about him getting enough game time, never mind goals. But he's totally turned that around. He deserves to be in the squad. He deserves to stay in the squad, going off that performances. And especially the way we're playing with that, like the crosses and the attack-mindedness, he's going to get more goals. For me, he has to start.
Yeah. And John, obviously, we've said there, Lyndon Gooch is missing, and it's hopeful that he'll be back in the next week or two. But when he does come back, does he come straight back in the team for you? And if so, who can you drop for him right now?
I think at the minute he doesn't come straight back in. Obviously, Johnson will have his players at the moment who are doing the business. As long as they're doing the business, then he's going to have to obviously work his way. And obviously, with the 5-sub rule, if a game's tight, we can always bring like our front two off, like the wingers, if you see what I mean, and bring on players like Maguire, Gooch, and they'll tear it up, especially last 25 minutes when legs are tiring. So again, it's just another option thing, and it's positive to have good selections to have, as opposed to if Maguire's not firing, we have to keep playing him and he's just not firing. Whereas we've got players on form now, so now that Gooch, if Gooch had come back when Parkinson was there, it'd be Gooch is straight back in. Whereas at the moment it's Don's doing well, McGeady's doing well. You're gonna have to work your way back into the team, and that's what we haven't had for a long time. So hopefully that's again another positive going forward.
Yeah. We'll look at some of the 2-word reviews that were sent on Twitter again. Nigel says long overdue, which is certainly the case. Daniel says professional performance. One says Aidan McGeady. Paul says Magic Johnson. Now we'll add that is Lee Johnson he's referring to. Reese says what's expected. David, a dream. He did also say come true. I suppose that counts. Glenn, about time. Someone said properly set up. Decent manager. But yeah, John, for you, if you could, aside from the one you posted on the page, 2-word review from yesterday's game, if you could sum it up.
Spot on.
Paul?
I think somebody mentioned this on another video, so I'm going to steal it. I'm going to say it. Johnson Masterclass.
Is Masterclass one word, or is it hyphenated?
Oh, you're getting picky now, aren't you? I think it's one word. I could be wrong though. Should we Google it?
I'll let you off. I'll have to double check that later on. Though.
Right,
it's hyphenated.
Right.
I'll let you off for now.
Thank
We will move
you.
into the player ratings from the game, and we will start with Lee Burge. As John Paul, you said earlier, he did get an important hand on the ball when Lincoln's forward almost got round him and forced him wide. But outside of that, he had little to do. I think there was one free kick in the second half that instead of catching it, he's decided to punch it, and he's punched it backwards somehow. But other than that, he was pretty much untested. So for me, Burge, 7 out of 10. John?
Yeah, I've gone for a 7. I think the little save actually keeps us in the game. So yeah, a good important save, 7.
Paul, for you?
Yeah, I've got 7.5 out of 10 because just that touch. If he hadn't get into it, I think they would have scored, and I think the game would have been. It could have
Different
been
game,
completely different. Yeah.
Conor McLaughlin is the right back, and throughout the first 20, 30 minutes, the defence was quite shaky, and he did contribute to that a little bit with his, again, I say it every week, but his lack of pace and mobility. But second half of the first half as well, he improved. Obviously, he's got the assist for Charlie Wyke's first goal, so give him a 6 out of 10 for me, John.
I've gone for 7. I thought he was decent actually, and yeah, his crossing is getting a lot better because obviously last season it wasn't anywhere near as good. So yeah, I've gone for a 7. I thought he was okay.
Paul, for you?
Yeah, I'm with John. I've gone for a 7 as well. I'm quite happy with his performance. I don't think he did much wrong at all. Maybe a little bit shaky, like you say, one or two parts, but yeah, he played well along with the other defenders. So yeah, I'll give him a 7.
Bailey Wright again is the right on the back four. Bailey Wright is the right. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Good one, that one. But again, there was a couple of mistakes that nearly cost us in the first half, but it didn't. So ultimately, it didn't make much of a difference. But we've said he's not looking the same defender that we're used to, and I'm expecting that just to be one of them rough patches that every footballer goes through, especially at League One level. But based on yesterday, again, 6 out of 10 for me, John.
Yeah, I've gone for 6 as well. Yeah, spot on. Obviously, what you said, just quite run of the mill.
And Paul?
I've given him a 7, just because he was same sort of standard as McLaughlin. Yeah, I think he does offer a lot. Like, it's not just obviously his defending abilities. I think I've said before, the way I've seen him shouting at Flanagan, sort of organising the back four. I think he does a lot of things with his mouth. So yeah, I'm happy with giving him a 7.
I have to put a PG rating on this podcast.
Yeah, sorry about
that. Tom Flanagan obviously started next to Bailey Wright, and I think defensively, again, first 15 minutes he was quite shaky, but again, he got more assured in the second half and later on in the first half. But he's played an outstanding ball through to Maguire for the 4th goal, and ultimately without that pass, and I think it's a sign of his confidence as well, because as we've said recently, his passing isn't normally great. He does try and hoof the ball up a lot, and he's made the run forward, and a lot of the times with Tom Flanagan, he'd then run backwards because he hasn't got the confidence to play that forward pass. But yesterday he did, and I don't know whether that's because we were 3-0 up. If it was 0-0, would he play the same pass? I don't know, but he did. So I've given Flanagan a 7 out of 10 for me, John.
Yeah, I've gone for 7. Yeah, I thought he was steady. Obviously, passing was better, and I think it's Johnson maybe giving them a bit more confidence to play those forward passes. But yeah, you see Maguire peel off, and it's an absolute sweet ball, and obviously we kill the game off. So yeah, superb.
And Paul, for you?
Yeah, I liked him, really liked him. Like you say, that pass was fantastic. Like I said, I give McLaughlin a 7, I give Bailey Wright a 7, and I think Flanagan was better, so I'll give him a 7.5. Yeah, I'd be happy for him to start again next week as well.
Callum McFadzean obviously started as a left back, and we've seen him a couple of times in the cup, and he was involved a lot in the cup games, but I thought he was quite quiet yesterday's game. Obviously, he's got the assist for Charlie Wyke's first goal with a header into the 6-yard box. So again, general 6 out of 10 for me, John.
Yeah, exactly the same. 6. He was all right when he, and like I say, got an assist. So at least he's up there in the box, which is where we need him.
And Paul, for you?
Yeah, I mean, my favourite number this week is 7. I don't know. I was just so happy to see players with pace, youth, just attacking from the back and passing well. I'm really happy with him. So yeah, he gets a 7 as well.
Grant Ledbetter obviously started once again in the whole midfield role, and the amount of minutes he's played as a 33, 34-year-old in this year, I think, it is impressive to be able to talk about him every week and not really have a bad thing to say about him. But obviously scored the penalty to get the first goal of the game. And as we say every week, he was tidy, he was neat throughout, and I was a big fan of the tactical foul in the last few minutes of the game where he's had 3 or 4 attempts at bringing the player down and eventually did. But for Ledbetter, I've given it 8 out of 10 for yesterday, John.
Yeah, I've gone for an 8 as well. Obviously scored, and I'd like to see his much higher tempo as well. It was good to see.
And Paul, for you?
I've given him a 7. I do like him. I think he had a really good game. There was a moment where he gave the ball away again, didn't he? He's done that the last few games, but it didn't really come to much. But yeah, just needs to be a bit more careful with his passing, I think. So yeah, I was still really happy with him. Give him a 7, and he got the penalty as well, so you can't complain.
Josh Scowen obviously started next to him midfield, second of third midfielders from yesterday's game, and again he's a player that a lot of people like, a lot of people don't like, and I'm one of the people that do like him. But he provided the energy in midfield that for a long time we haven't had, and he does seem to have a yard of pace about him, and he made some good forward moves. Were times, as with all 3 midfielders, that he was a bit sloppy on the ball, but he wasn't lucky not to get on the score sheet as well. So I've given him a 7 out of 10, John.
Yeah, I've gone for a 7. I thought his pressing was very good, which obviously helped us. Apart from that, I didn't really see him do a lot else. But the pressing is what obviously, gave us a good performance. So yeah, I'll go for 7.
And Paul?
I've given him a 6. What you were saying there about some people liking him, some people not liking him. I change my mind quite regularly with him. Sometimes I do like him, sometimes I don't. I think he just needs a bit more composure on the ball. Let's say a few sloppy passes, and when he gets a chance, maybe just stay calm and take the chance. But yeah, I've given him a 6.
Yeah. Max Power was the last of the 3 midfielders, and it was a better performance from him, as we've seen in recent weeks. And he seemed to be playing quite wide on the right-hand side, and he does seem to have more of an influence on that side as opposed to in the middle where he's constantly looking backwards and sideways. But he played a lot on the right. He put some good balls into the box and linked up well with Jack Diamond quite a few times. So I think I initially gave him a 6 out of 10, but I'll go with a 7 out of 10. John?
I've gone with an 8 actually. I thought he was really good. His intensity was really good. So I'm giving a few players, what for, and obviously calming Diamond down a little bit. But yeah, he looks a lot better now than what he did under Parkinson. So yeah, I've gone with an 8 for him.
I'm really not a fan of his hair now, mind, are you? Looks like you.
No, I'm not. No. Yeah.
Paul, what about you?
Yeah,
on his performance, not his hair.
He's got lovely hair. I've got the same hairstyle as well. So. Yeah, I've given him 7.5. Absolutely over the moon with them. It's nice to see. I know you said he's more on the right, but he seems to just be a bit more free, moving around a bit better. And I think when he is on the right, he's not looking sideways as much because he's only got one direction to look at most of the time. So, yeah, I was really happy that he played so well, and I would be starting with. He's another one. He's like Scowen. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. But after that one, yeah, I was really happy. 7.5.
Got John talking about Blue in the quiz podcast, and we've got Paul talking about One Direction.
I don't know any of their songs, otherwise I'd sing you one.
Aidan McGeady, obviously the first of 3 attackers. He played his first game for Sunderland in 13 months a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago. It's been a busy week. But it was a fantastic run and assist for Jack Diamond's goal, and every time he got the ball, he looked a threat. He's very two-footed as well, so he's very unpredictable. You don't know whether he's going to cut in and have a shot or go wide and cross it in, but put some good balls into the box. I think he forced the keeper into a good save in the second half with a 20-25 yard effort, and obviously hit the side net with a free kick as well. So Ian McGeady for me at 8 out of 10. John?
Yeah, I've gone for an 8 as well. Obviously, it looked a class above all game, and it was nice to see him actually chasing a few balls down, which we wouldn't have seen, previously. So he's obviously working for the team, which is good to see.
Yeah. And Paul, for you?
Yeah, I tweeted at half time, I think just after half time, about what a difference this guy makes, and I put a picture of him on my Twitter. For me, I've given him a 9. I just love to see him back. The way he's, especially in the second half, I know he's sort of friendly with Maguire, but their link-up play was fantastic sometimes, and you can see the players are terrified of him. Lincoln players are terrified of him. And he doesn't give the ball away very often. When he has it, he does something quality with it. He very, very rarely ever passes backwards or sideways unless he has no other option. And for me, he is the reason, like the main reason we've I mean, obviously with Lee Johnson, why we had that performance yesterday. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. And John, like you've said there, he is tracking back a bit more. And one of the criticisms that he did have, obviously not last season, but the season before, was his work rate. You know, he'd lose the ball and he'd kind of walk back. But since he's came back in under Lee Johnson, he seems, as you said there, he seems to want to work for the team more so than he did before then, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw him. Yeah, chasing balls down. Normally, it'd break down, and obviously someone else would have to cover for him. Especially with three holding midfielders sort of behind him. So yeah, it's good to see that work rate, and obviously a happy Aidan McGeady is. You know, we're going to see the best of him, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, Jack Diamond started under the wing, and you know he was outstanding. I think that's the best way of putting it. He was a threat throughout. His pace was really last night. His crossing was impressive, and the finish for his goal was exceptional, and certainly warranted for the performance that he had. And to say all that, and he only played 45 minutes, it would have been a shame that he did pick up that yellow card, because I think, you know, if he's played in the second half, it could be 5-6, maybe even 7-0 by full time. But for me, Jack Diamond yesterday, I've given him a 9 out of 10. John, I think that's the highest rating I've given anyone so far ever.
Yeah, I've given him an 8, and I've only marked him down slightly just because of the booking. I don't think he needs, you know, and he doesn't need to give the silly fouls away like he's doing if he loses the ball, because we've got the free holding midfielders. Apart from that, he was outstanding, and obviously the way he carries the ball gets us right up the pitch. So yeah, it would have been a 9 just for that silly booking that obviously makes him come off.
Yeah. And Paul, for you, Jack Diamond.
Yeah, well, I've just said I give McGeady a 9. I had to give Diamond a 9 as well. Absolutely fantastic. And I've never given anybody a 9 this season or last season or season before for a long. I don't think I've given anybody a 9 for a long time. So Diamond has to be a 9. He was just brilliant. Like once again, the same as what I mentioned about McFadden, like seeing pace, and he's scaring the defenders. He's running up them, trying different things. And I like, even if it doesn't come off, he's trying it. You know what I mean? He's seeing what works for him. So yeah, I was absolutely over the moon with him, and he would definitely start the next game. So I'll give him a 9.
Yeah. And the last in the starting 11, of course, was Charlie Wyke on his return from injury. And throughout the game, he's held the ball up well, got himself on the score sheet once again with a close range finish in the first half and a great finish in the second half. And, you know, the first half goal, you see him quite often, but the second half, the second goal that he scored is, you know, I think that's a real sign of his confidence now. You know, he's hit the ball with some power. He's in the right position at the right time. And it was just a great performance again from Wyke. So again, 9 out of 10 for me, John.
Yeah, I'll give him a 9 as well. 2 goals, right place, right time. And I think Johnson was saying it, that we need strikers. Obviously, Will Grigg in midweek wasn't in the right place at any point. We need to know when the crosses are coming in and where the players need to be. And Wyke seems to have really stepped up on that. And obviously the 2 goals, massive confidence. And he did actually lead the line really well. He was bullying defenders. And, you know, we've been through times where it's pointless having him up top. So get him up there and get players around him. And we've got a real asset there. Yeah, 9 for me.
All for you though, Charlie Wyke.
Oh yeah, really, really good. I think I've said before in the past, he didn't seem to be getting in the right positions or not reading the flight of the ball very well. But going off what you said earlier regarding that graphic, maybe the flight of the ball was just too far, and now he's getting in shorter crosses coming in. He can read it better, and he's getting in the right places, and he's putting the ball in the back of the net, which is what he gets paid to do. So. Yeah, I've gone and given him 8.5. Only reason he's not a 9 is because I think McGeady and Diamond were better than him, so I had to give him a little bit less.
Yeah. Man of the match then. Slightly easier. I say slightly easier than previous weeks, but I'd argue it's also harder because everyone played well. But if you had to pick one man of the match, John, who are you going for?
I've gone for Wyke for his 2 goals.
Paul, for you? One man of the match.
It was harder. It was definitely harder to pick. I said on Fans React, I think I had about 10 people send us videos in, and almost every video that we're seeing, it's difficult to pick because there were so many good individual performances. I've gone for Diamond just because of the goal, and it was a toss up between him and McGeady, but because he got the goal, I've went for him. I just really, really loved his performance yesterday.
Yeah, and I think if I had to pick one, I think in the match report I said Diamond and Wyke, but I think if I went with one, I'd have to go with Diamond just purely because he brings something to the team that, without him yesterday, I don't think we'd have won.
Yeah.
I think he brings that pace, he brings that creativity and a bit of unpredictability as well. That, like I say, I think that's won us the game yesterday. So Jack Diamond gets it for me. But we will see.
Can I just quickly say as well, we had Maguire come on for Diamond on the 46th minute, and we had Dobson come on the 68th minute. The rest of them were in the 70th to 80th minute and that. But I would like to just say that Maguire and Dobson I thought were fantastic when they came on as well. I'll give them both a 7.5. I just think they deserve to mention in that game because especially Maguire. I mean, even Dobson, I've never been a big fan of Dobson, but he played brilliantly when he came on. So, and they kept pushing. They didn't sort of sit back. I thought Dobson might have started passing it backwards and sideways. He didn't do it. He was attacking. So, yeah, I think them two deserve to mention.
I think I'll refrain from giving Dobson too much praise, but I'll agree with Maguire. And John Maguire, like we've said a few times, Maguire is looking slightly poor this season as to what he has been in the last few seasons, but he looked a lot better yesterday. His work rate looked a bit better. And like I say, instead of cutting back in and Cruyff turning and beating the man again like he sometimes does, Flanagan played that ball out wide to him and, he just drove down the line and played a simple ball in the box and we scored from it. And that's not something we've seen enough from Maguire recently, is it?
No, it's not. No, and I think it's obviously Johnson's obviously put him on the bench a couple of games. So he's probably thought, well, I'm going to have to work for this manager as well. And I thought yesterday, like Paul said, he did actually work his backside off. But it's about good decision making. Like you say, he probably with Parkinson, he'd probably turn back instead of trying to beat that man. But he beats the man, we score. Do you know what I mean? It's confidence and just a little bit more tactical nous, which Johnson seems to have. And hopefully these players will flourish. And him playing with McGeady probably will help a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think McGeady makes a difference to Maguire because they're obviously friends. We've seen them sitting at McDonald's together. So obviously, you can see on the pitch they like to sort of link up with each other. So I think when McGeady plays, even if it's like for the second half like they did this game, bring Maguire on and you can see them really connecting together well, I think.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see who starts on Tuesday. It will be an interesting one. Just briefly, John, is there any changes you'd like to see on Tuesday's game or after a 4-0 win against second in the table, is it warranted to go with the exact same 11?
I think the first team that played against Lincoln has earned the right to play. And like I say, we got 5 subs, so there's plenty of opportunity. If someone's not on it, or if one of them's because Ledbetter's played quite a lot of football, that type of thing. Maybe you could bring him off after sort of 50 minutes, give him a bit of a rest. But yeah, I'd go with the same team, and as long as they can keep up the intensity, then we should be fine.
Yeah. And Paul, is that the same for you?
Yeah, you can't change a winning team, especially after a performance like that. If we just scraped a 1-0 win off Griggs' backside or something, then you'd maybe think about changing it up. But after that performance, you can't really change it at all. But the thing is, if we do need to change it, if there is an injury during training or anything, like John mentioned at the beginning of the show there, we've got backup now, and we've even got backup coming back from injury as well. So we're in such a strong position, and it's really positive for me at the moment.
Yeah. Obviously, our next game is on Tuesday against AFC Wimbledon, I believe. 7:00 kickoff. John, score predictions for that one?
We'll go 4-0 Sunderland win.
It's amazing what one win can do for your confidence in it.
Yeah. Well, they got hammered by Charlton.
They did. 5-2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4 for you?
Yeah, I'm going to go for 5-0.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You are
definitely
optimistic, aren't you?
I honestly, after that game, how can you not be? I mean, it didn't look like a team second in the league were going to, well, apart from them 2 chances, it didn't really look like they were going to trouble us that much. So I think if we can get 4 and a clean sheet past Lincoln, then we should be aiming for something even better against Wimbledon.
Yeah. I'll go for a slightly more pessimistic result. I'll say 2-0 Sunderland. Still a good result, still a win, still 3 points, but I'm going to be...
Yeah, that's a good... As long as we get 3 points, I think we'll all be happy, really, at the end of the day.
I'll err on the side of caution, slightly.
Yeah, I mean... I think me and John probably just getting carried away, really, but that's what we... After seeing that, I think that's what we should be aiming for, to be honest.
I definitely agree.
It was
But
it was refreshing to see Johnson in his post-match conference to say that he wasn't impressed with absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? With striving to do more, striving to be better, and that was refreshing to see. It would have been easy to come out and say, yeah, I've been training for a couple of days. They've got it all on board, and we're with the finished article. Whereas the interview was pressing him to sort of say that, and he was like, no, there's still stuff we can work on. We weren't good at this. We weren't good at that. We need to. Do you know what I mean? That's refreshing. That even though it's going well, we still need to go, back to the drawing board and still figure out we can be better here, better this, better that. That's really refreshing to see.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a positive as well, because I remember Parkinson, some of his interviews after the game, although I couldn't listen to them all because they were so they'd send you to sleep if you listen to 4 minutes of Parkinson talking. But he'd come out after a 1-1 draw against I don't know who, but a team lower the table, and he praised the performance. He said they played well, and as you said there, John, we came out, hammered Lincoln 4-0 comfortably, and Johnson's obviously he's happy with the win, but he's not. Suppose the word will be
content.
Content. That's it. Like you say, there is still areas that they need to improve on. Another day we might have found ourselves 2-0 down in the first 15 minutes, which I'm sure he's aware of. So he will be looking to get rid of things like that. But as he said himself, Tuesday's game will be looking for an even better performance. And if so, possibly one of your predictions could be true. That is all we have time for tonight. Thank you, John and Paul, for joining me.
No worries. Thanks for having us on again.
No worries at all. We will be back again on Wednesday at some point, hopefully sometime in the afternoon, to discuss the game against Wimbledon. Hopefully a 4-5-0 win, but until then, we will see you later.